welcome to another week of Kids Church at Home. You might have noticed already in these first few seconds that I'm in a different setting. Things have had to change this week. I don't know about you at your home, but here we are learning from home this week, which means we've had to rejuggle where everybody gets to spend their time and have space during the day. And so today I'm in a different space, but I still have my candle and we're still together, so I have what's important to me for this. Our special shout out today goes to everybody who has had to change this past week. Wow, so many things pivoting and being flexible and learning differently and all kinds of stuff going on. So a shout out to you and your resilience and your ability to face those challenges and to make it through. In fact, our story today is about a couple of people who had to make lots of changes through their life, and they had to really be flexible and learn and be strong. And so we're going to hear a little bit more about John the Baptizer and Jesus as Jesus started into his ministry. So let's tell this story together. This is a story about Jesus when he got a little bit older. At this time, Jesus wasn't known by very many people, and he had not yet begun his ministry. But this is a story about Jesus and a river. This is the River Jordan. It continues to flow today in the Middle East, but this story took place a long, long time ago and includes a man named John. John was a bit of a wild man. He lived in the wilderness, he ate bugs and honey, and he would stay by the river and he would baptize people. Baptism at that time was a way of showing that a person was ready to leave behind their old life, wash away all the baggage that they were carrying, and enter into a new way of living with God. And John the Baptist would help them through that process. One day, Jesus arrived at the river to be baptized. Now, John and Jesus already knew each other. John is Jesus' cousin, the son of Elizabeth. And John knew that Jesus was special, and he said, "No, I can't baptize you. You are God's chosen one. You already are blessed." Jesus said, "I want to be like everybody else. We are all blessed. I want to go through this process." And so Jesus entered into the river with John. And John baptized Jesus with the water of the River Jordan. Jesus was covered with this water just like everyone else. As Jesus came out of the water, a dove came down from the heavens and landed on Jesus to show that God's blessing was with Jesus and with his ministry and the journey ahead. So that is the story of how Jesus entered into the ministry that he did with others, the ministry of healing and of serving and of loving. What a story! A story about change, a story about letting go, a story about embarking in a new way of being and living and serving. I wonder, what part of that story is your favorite? I wonder too about John. I wonder what was it like for John to live in the wilderness and to be isolated like he was and to serve in the ministry that he did. I wonder about Jesus. I wonder what it was like for him in that moment after living his whole life as he had to take this moment to say, I'm going to set it all aside now and enter into serving God. And I wonder, lastly, about God. I wonder what the dove in the story symbolized. It makes me think of another dove, one in the story of Noah, after the floods had come up and the rains had stopped. We're told in the story of Noah that God sent a dove to tell Noah that it was safe to land and to get off of the boat. Now here we are again in river with another character, Jesus, and we have another dove that comes to be God's messenger. I wonder about the message that God sends with that dove. There's lots of wondering in this story. What we do know is this is the doors opening on Jesus serving the people around him in many, many different ways. And so now it's for us to wait and see what will happen next. I wonder, have you ever noticed how much water plays in the story from our old scriptures? We see water in a lot of stories. There's Noah's Ark, and there's the creation stories, and there's water turning into wine. I wonder, can you think of any other stories that have water? Well, we have now the story of the baptism as well that has water, and we continue to use water today as a symbol of God's blessing. I wonder, why is water so very important to our stories? We're going to take some time today to explore water. So we're not going to make a craft. This is going to get wet and messy, but we're going to have some fun. So I have here a bowl of water, and I have a spoon, and I have a sponge, and I have some wax paper, and we're going to play with water a little bit. And if there's other ways that you want to play with water, then you should do that too, but only with parents' permission. We're not going to start a pool inside our house today. We're just going to play with it a little bit. So let's start by exploring water. Have you ever paid attention to what water feels like on your fingertips? Let's put our fingers in. What does that feel like? Can you feel the water drips rolling up your fingers? If you dip your fingers in and then turn them upside down, can you feel the water drips rolling up your hand? Let's try that again. Dip the fingers in, turn it upside down, and pay attention to the feel of the water drips on your skin. What does that feel like? Is it cold? Is it warm? Does it tickle? Is it wet? What about the sound of water? If we dance our fingertips in the water, what does it sound like? Is it loud? Is it quiet? Does it tinkle? How would you describe that sound? I wonder if we could make a different sound with the water. What if we used a spoon and poured it back into the bowl? Is that sound different? Let's see if we can create another sound. What if we take a sponge and soak up the water in the sponge and then squeeze it out? How is the sound of the sponge different from the spoon? Hello, Pitch. Pitch wants to play with the water too. He's very curious. I wonder if the water feels the same to Pitch as it does to me. Pitch is interested in the smell of the water. Does your water have a smell? Can you smell the water? I wonder what Pitch smells when he sniffs the water. What do you smell, Pitch? Okay, well, we've explored our hearing and our touch, and we've wondered about the smell. What about the taste of water? Now, this water has had my fingers in it and a sponge and the cat's nose, so I'm not going to taste this one right now. But what if we were to get a glass of water? Let's try that. Here, I have a little glass of water. Let's try this out. Let's put just a little bit in our mouth. What does the water taste like? Did you feel the water on your lips as you put it in your mouth? What did it feel like on your tongue? Did you notice where on your tongue you taste the water? Let's try that again. I taste the water at the front of my mouth. Where do you taste the water? Isn't that curious? There's all kinds of ways to experience water. I have some wax paper too. Are you ready for this one? Let's try this out a little bit. Now, wax paper has wax on it, which is like an oil, and water doesn't really like oil. So I wonder what it will be like to put some water on our wax paper. What do you think it might look like? Let's try this out. We're going to scoop up just a little bit of water and put some drops on our wax paper. I've got some big drops and some little drops. What do you notice about your drops? Do you know what I notice? I notice that they're very round. Hello. They're very round. And I notice that they're kind of far apart. They're like these little domes, aren't they? I wonder if I took the point of my spoon, if I can maybe move my drops of water around. Let's see if we can drag our little bubbles of water around on our wax paper. Oh, that one was too big. There we go. Look at that. It's following my spoon. I wonder how big of a water bubble we can create. Whoop. There we go. That one's fun looking. Well, I think Pitch now is going to take some time to play with our water bubbles. But I hope that you had some fun with your water bubbles. If you want to be creative, you could actually add some color to those water bubbles and then see how maybe the colors mix when the bubbles mix together. There's so many different, thank you. There's so many different and creative and fun ways to play with water. But water is also very powerful, isn't it? Water can create floods and it can destroy things, but it's also at the heart of all life, and it quenches our thirst and it helps plants to grow. So water is the heart of all life here on earth, and it is both powerful and cleansing. It's both sweet and gentle. It's also harsh. Water is so many different things, and it's no wonder that water plays a really important part both in our ancient stories as well as our practices in church and in faith even today, because water is all around us, and without it, life wouldn't exist. Well, my friends, until next week, thank you so much for playing in the water with me this week and for exploring the water. And I wish you well in the weeks ahead as you engage in the challenges and the things that are going on, and you find life and energy and excitement and joy in any place that you can. Until next week, bye!